Welcome back to your daily basketball recap. My name is Levi Jacob. Full disclosure, you might be thinking to yourself, did Levi just change his shirt and record on the same day as the previous episode, which is Friday? And the answer is, you betcha. I'm recording this a day in advance, so if any NBA news is breaking, I will not be there to break it until Saturday night. That being said, I wanted to go through this article that Bleacher Report posted called "Who Would Every NBA Team Save If It Could Only Keep One Player?" I thought it was a very interesting article. It's written by Zach Buckley. Nice name, nice name. One note on the Mikal Bridges signing was that this signing and extension actually was not the max, which means that it allows the Knicks for the next 3 years, including Jalen Brunson's contract that he signed earlier, his extension rather. That was also not the max. Um, what it allows them to do is have more flexibility for the next, few years, which is great because they will probably need to add, if they're not able to win in the next year, probably need to add a few more pieces as they age. Uh, you know, Hopefully not, but injuries could come into play, things like that. And if they're looking to add, a Giannis level talent, they'll need to be able to trade more salary. So, they'll be able they'll need to be able to group together more players in order to do that as well. So I don't think that Brunson would be part of that trade, but yeah, it enables them to have a little more flexibility. So I think that's really, really great for them. Okay, jumping into the article. The first one that they start off with is the Atlanta Hawks. The player that they have listed is Jalen Johnson as the number one person you would keep, and I'm actually, maybe aside from Risa Shea, who I think actually has a lot of potential as a young player. This is also written, mind you, July 30th. Oh no, so it's very recent. So I'm just trying to think in terms of all the players they have on their roster. Jalen Johnson is definitely in the discussion. I'd probably say he's one. I think Risa Shea would be one B, and then maybe in a second would be Dyson Daniels. I think all those players are young, interesting prospects who have potentially more to show in their game, and they offer a lot to this team as well. And they would offer a lot to like any other team. So I think that's great. The Boston Celtics have on here Jason Tatum. I definitely agree with that point. Um, he's an NBA champion. He was an incredible two-way player, a good distributor. Despite what everyone thinks that I feel about Jason Tatum, I think that he's still a very, very good player. They have here for the Brooklyn Nets, uh, Yegor. I think it's pronounced Jomin. We've been saying Demon, but I think it's Jomin. Um, I don't, I don't know. I guess if it was you, if you could keep one player, I'm looking at it a little bit differently. I guess so, just because he's the number 8 pick this year. There's not much talent on their team other than that I would say. Like, it's not that there's not much talent, but there's not much talent that I wouldn't trade for something else potentially. So I think like technically speaking, it would have to be that technically speaking is the correct call. The Charlotte Hornets with Brandon Miller. I think now that they have, yeah, I think Brandon Miller is also the right piece that should be kept. They have now Con Knippel. He's an interesting player. He's really could have a very, very good NBA career, but if you have to have one player that you can kind of build around, I think Brandon Miller would have more of the higher ceiling on his potential than Con Knippel would. Chicago Bulls, Matas Buzelis. Yeah, that's for me. That's kind of a no-brainer. So the next up is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Evan Mobley is the number one target on that list. Yeah, yeah, that's the right pick. That's the right pick. Dallas Mavericks, Cooper Flag, absolutely. Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic. Um, yes, like meaning yeah, no brainer. That's a no brainer. Um, Compared to what the Nuggets management has said, unfortunately, over the last year for some reason, I don't know if that's true, but it should be true. Cade Cunningham for the Detroit Pistons, yeah. Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry, yeah, yeah. Like, come on, yeah. The Houston Rockets, Amen Thompson, I think is the right pick over Şengün. They have a lot of young talent. They really have a lot of young talent. But I think, aside from Reed Shepherd, I think he's the youngest that like also has like the highest potential. And I think everybody would say that it's Amen Thompson. Indiana Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton, for sure. The Los Angeles Clippers. This one is interesting. Ivica Zubac, also, by the way, I'm pretty sure the youngest. How old is Ivica Zubac? He's about. They don't say it here. I think he's. I think he's close. I think he's like in his late 20s, maybe 28, 29, I believe. Um, and he made an all defensive team this year. He really upped his defense, but I think that he is like one of the youngest people on the roster who's the most effective. So I think that he, like, once you really think about it, right? Kawhi and Harden are both higher, upper 30s. It's it's the right call. It's the right call. The Lakers, Doncic. The Memphis Grizzlies, Jaren Jackson Jr. There's a lot of ways that you can go with this. I feel like because the Grizzlies have a lot of really interesting talent in Jaren Jackson. He came out as an all-star this year. He really played exceptionally well. He still gets into a little bit of foul trouble. He's still fully, he has a complete game, but he's a great defender. Also, he's you know he's learning, but he is I think 25, 26 this year. So in terms of a young player who do you want to get like promise out of, I like who they just selected in the draft with Cedric Coward, but he hasn't really played yet, so you don't know, Um, but I also think that Jaren Jackson Jr. would bring them back the most in a trade. Is the truth. I think that he's their most important player that they have. So in terms of a player that you wish to keep, sure, but I also think that he's like one of the most likely to be shipped out if they need to do that. Miami Heat, Bam Adebayo. I don't agree. This I actually don't agree with. Um, he's a little bit of an undersized center. His defense is not where it used to be. I think that he could turn on. Obviously, I actually think that Bam is a good player. However, I just feel like Bam could maybe get you more than Tyler Hero could, and I think that they're of equal importance to the Miami Heat and to a potentially winning team. So I don't know to tell you. Maybe Khalil Ware I would actually put above both of them. I think he has really good potential. He can shoot the three ball. He can really do anything on the floor. He's a good defender. He's a good shot blocker. Um, and he's 20, 21, I think. He's great. I'm a very big fan of Khalil Ware, and I think that he has like great future potential. So just to kind of see that through, maybe that he's less. I think I would more like to have him on my roster than the other two, just because we've seen that you can't really win so far with the other two. The Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yeah, even though he's also again most likely to be traded realistically on that team right now. Minnesota Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards. Yeah, we're getting into more of an obvious category. Okay, here's an interesting one. New Orleans Pelicans, Jeremiah Fears. He's an interesting player. He has interesting potential in college. He ended up being the main point of his offense. He performed well in the tournament. That being said, he's not the most efficient shooter throughout most of his pre-NBA career. Summer League was interesting at points, to say the least. Definitely, the percentages are not so high for him. But he's got a good mentality. He's he's aggressive in the right way on the basketball court. So he might, he has good potential, and he's the youngest on the team. I happen to really like Derek Queen though. I think that he's going to be a really good NBA player. I just see him having the potential to be more fun watch, and I think he's gonna score well. He has the size to be able to be effective. Maybe he's not going to be the best defender, obviously, but I don't think that Jeremiah Fears is going to be the best defender either. Um, yeah, I happen to really like Derek Queen. I think that would be the pick for me, honestly. The Knicks, Jalen Brunson. That's correct for this point in time. he's the whole engine of their offense as of now. I don't think that Mike Brown is going to try to go too far away from that because he's showed that he has an absolute knack for scoring. So I just think that by default, that's correct. The Thunder, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he just got the MVP, won you the title, all of the above. Orlando Magic, Paolo Banchero, I also think that that's the right pick. There's an argument that you could make for Franz, but I don't think that it's a realistic argument. 76ers, Tyrese Maxey. He's a younger player on their roster by default because they have a good amount of they have a good spread of ages. But Tyrese Maxey is the youngest star that they have at the very least. VJ Edgecombe, I think, is going to be very good in this league. But you take the proven talent over the potential, and I think Jared McCain is going to be very good as well. So if I'm the 76ers, I'm kind of trying to keep a trove of things that I would like to not trade, is the truth. And all three of those guys I think would be among them because they have such interesting potential. It remains to be seen if Jared McCain and Tyrese Maxey can play together. I don't want to be one of those guys, but the truth is that they're both kind of ball dominant guards, and work best as they're not primary distributors, but they are primary ball handling guards. Maybe a more symbiotic fit would be like with next to a James Harden, who's at this point in his career again, who's able to distribute a little bit better. But it could be that his game grows. He averaged more assists this year. Those kind of went up, and that was including the span of time where most of this year when Joel Embiid wasn't in, and neither was Paul George. So who knows? But I think it's going to be really interesting. And I think I happen to really like VJ Edgecombe. I think that he's just he's the kind of prospect that you want. Phoenix Suns with Devin Booker. Again, it's kind of the same thing. I just think that on this roster, he's the player that would get you the most. Personally, I know people don't like this, but I'm not sure that Devin Booker has what it takes to be a primary scoring option on a finals team. Secondary, maybe, but you saw him next to Durant and it wasn't pretty. I think they have to stop running him at point guard. He did well. I'm not saying that he's not a good distributor. I'm just saying as a primary distributor and a primary guard to handle the ball, I just think that he needs to be set up a little bit better. But realistically speaking, he's the right call here as well. Portland Trailblazers with Scoot Henderson. I'm very, very interested to see where this pick is next year. This pick for the Trailblazers. They have a lot of young talent between Deni Avdija and Scoot Henderson and Hanson Yang and Shaden Sharp. And Tumani Kamara, I think, is 25, 26. So technically speaking, if you want to, have that argument of how much better would his peak be than what he is right now? And right now he's a very, very good defender. And also, truth is that he's a very efficient offensive player as well. Scoot Henderson has the potential to be a really, really effective player in this league, a really, top talent. I want to see if this year it's able to come through more. And if it is, I love it. And that's great. And, I want to see these NBA players succeed. So I think it's hard to know for sure, but I think at this point in time, I think I would lean more towards Deni. I think. Also, I don't think if you trade Dame, you just look like a terrible organization at this point. So, but I think I would lean Deni just because of what he's been able to show so far. Sacramento Kings, Keegan Murray. I think it's Keon Ellis. I really think it's Keon Ellis. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'm actually really excited to also see what Nick Clifford can be. He had a very interesting summer league, and I think I'd put both of those above Keegan Murray. I think that we've seen that Keegan Murray's prime years might be behind him, unfortunately. So I don't think that's the right answer. The San Antonio Spurs, Victor Wembanyama. That's if anybody in the league could trade anybody for Victor Wembanyama, they might do it. Like I think that if the Spurs called up the Thunder and said, "Do you want to trade SGA for Victor Wembanyama?" I think the Thunder would be like, and I'm a big Thunder fan. I think the Thunder would be like, "We got to think about that. We would be really stupid to not think about that." The Toronto Raptors, Scotty Barnes. I don't think so. I think that he's a very interesting NBA player. I'm trying to think of what other player. I'm just trying to think of if he's a unique enough talent that I would say that he's the one that you would rather on the roster. Because also he's making a lot of money now. I think after the extension. I don't know. There's such an interesting roster, really. As well as this year's draft pick that they brought in. I'm interested to see where they go with this. Again, there's another one that I'm really interested to see in a year's time where this pick would be. I like Grady Dick. I happen to really like Grady Dick a lot. That's hard. That's a hard one. That's a hard one to figure out otherwise. Yeah, he still feels like he has where to go, right? Like he still feels like he has upside. It's just like I don't know how to tell you that he's going to unlock the upside. The Jazz, Ace Bailey. Yeah, there's just too much potential at this point. They've tanked for too many years to try to figure out if they could get a player like him. So he is the most upside. I think that's correct. The Washington Wizards, last team, and they have on here Alex Sarr. The Wizards are also another one that I would like to see next year because they have so many young pieces that have so much promise. Like Alex Sarr has the potential to be something special on defense if his offensive game can catch up. But sometimes on offense, it looks miserable. Bilal Coulibaly, I might put up there above him, honestly. I really like Bub Carrington. I think that he has the potential to score. He's just one of those quick, fun, shifty scoring guards. I like him a lot. And he's kind of like he's got like an animal in him. Wow. That's a toss. I think I would go with Bilal Coulibaly over Alex Sarr at this point in time. Not to say that he's not a good player. He is. I just think that Bilal Coulibaly is, from what he's shown so far, I think he's more promised to be an all-around player. Whereas Alex Sarr, like, I just don't know that about those percentages. I didn't like that he, reportedly didn't want to go to Atlanta, for example. Like, I don't like players that are in a place where they say I can't or I don't want to. Like, that's great that you don't want to. I don't want to do a lot of things. But also, players should be allowed to say that they don't. Who knows? But I don't think that. I think that would be Bilal Coulibaly over Alex Sarr. So that was the Bleacher Report. If the teams had to trade all players except for one, who would that one player be? I want to thank you for listening, watching, and I want to thank Max for producing. I want to thank Shlomo for being great. Shlomo, we love you. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day.